everyone. I think before we go to our discussion, can we get a one-line introduction from each of us present this morning? So, let me start from you, sir. Can you maybe just take out the mic from the, pass it on.
Good morning. I'm Maria Katubig, the Manila editor of Sunstar Network Exchange, the online portal of Sunstar Network Publishing.
Hi, good morning. I am Paul Forman, staff writer from Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Saceda, projects coordinator for Ecojon Peace and Conflict Journalism Network.
All the way from Cebu.
Yes.
Good morning, I'm Joe Torres. I'm the Bureau Chief of the Union of Catholic Asian News here in Manila. But I'm representing our chairman for the Philippine Center of Photojournalism. I'm a board member, so I'm here for PCB.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Benny Antiporda from the National Press Club.
Good morning. I'm Hannah Jagger from Probe Foundation. It's the Mulat Pinoy Project, the social media initiative of Probe Foundation.
Well, let me introduce myself again. Flor Angel Gray, trustee of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication. May I also introduce, before he introduces himself, my fellow, co-convener, Mr. Mel Velarde, who is the chairman, CEO of ICTV, our boss at the Institute of Journalism is also our chairman.
Maybe you should also talk about a bit about the Justice Channel so that they'll all be familiarized, because this will be sent to policymakers.
Thank you, Flor. Flor is our inspiration in AIJC. We met in 1986, and from that time on, our battles never ended. We launched a social website that, or it's a mobile website now, Justice Watch, and the next would be a social website. So what we wanted to do is to gather as much content as possible and elicit user-related content. And in fact, in my talk, in the closing remarks, maybe I could tell you what we plan to do, maybe ask some of the candidates to go to the site and express their vote against cybercrime bill, and also give a definite stand against the criminal provisions of libel and defamation. But I'm going ahead of the story, and whatever content we have here, it's free, so we can just link each other's content so that there will be more channels that would carry this issue. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Angelo Ramos. I'm with two organizations. The first is the Philippine Community E-Center Network. We're a national organization of community centers or data centers. So this is a network of public internet access points hosted in many local governments. There's more than 1,000 all over the country. I'm also the executive director of an organization called Molambio Development Foundation. So we do research work on ICT issues as well as in content development. Thank you.
My name is Harry Roque. I'm from UP College of Law, and I'm one of the petitioners and counsel to this challenge against the cybercrime law.
Hi, good morning. My name is Judith Sunido. I'm a blogger. I'm also one of the petitioners against cybercrime, and I'm also part of the group that came up with the Magna Carta for Internet Freedom, or the MCBIF. which was, I think, adopted by Senator Santiago, and is now, well, some of the congressmen are actually looking at it right now as well. It was a crowdsourced project, and that means several people took part in creating it, and it's still being crafted as such.
Good morning, I'm Teresa Diego of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication.
I'm Pinky Kamwang from AIJC.
Hello, I'm Ann Lopez, AIJC.
Maybe we could hear from the two lawyers at the back.
Hi, I'm Imelda Samson from the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm AJ Mamasay from ICTV.
Good morning, I'm Karen Espinelli from ICTV.
Thank you everyone for your brief introductions. To start this morning, we expect a provocative discussion or update to be led by Professor Harry Roque. He's still at the forefront of this fight against the cybercrime law. So Harry, may we hear from you on the updates as well as what your insights are on how to successfully win this case in the Supreme Court. This is not sub judice, right?
No.
Okay. Harry?
Yeah.
Maybe Harry, can you...
I have roundtable. Roundtable, you prefer? I'll be moving.
Well, cameras kasi, the cameras.
No, it's okay. We will move the camera.
Well, I'm here because I also want to challenge the sub judice rule. I think people have the wrong impression that just because there's a pending litigation, you cannot comment completely about the case, which is not true. The state of jurisprudence, both in the Philippines and in the United States, is that the sub judice rule, like all restrictive rules on freedom of expression, is subject to a clear and present danger test. So unless the matters that I will discuss in connection with an unresolved litigation will bring about a clear and present danger, then there should be no reason why people should not comment, particularly on public interest cases, such as the constitutionality of the cybercrime law. I'm going to be truly provocative. I'm going to say something publicly for the first time. I hope this will not affect the outcome of the case, but it certainly reflects an ongoing debate, not only within the court, but I think also within society. And saying this, because I'm treating this as an academic forum. Am I correct? Or is this really for public consumption?
No, what?
What is it? Because I thought it was an academic forum. And that's why I want to know first if we are actually having an academic discussion or if this is something for public consumption.
I think it should be first an academic forum, and whatever the group decides to be the positions that we could make public, then those will be public pronouncements.
Okay. So in that context, I will first do an update, and then I will discuss the lingering issue that I think we should discuss. Now the update is we only have until tomorrow to file the memorandum. From the date of the last oral argument, last 29th of January, I was given 1 day to make a second amendment to my petition to challenge all the provisions of the revised penal code on libel law, and 20 days thereafter for all the parties to simultaneously file their respective memorandum. And the rule is upon submission of the memorandum tomorrow, the case is finally submitted for resolution. Now, we are filing separate memorandums. What happened was, although there are 15 petitions, the petitioners met and basically designated 5 individuals who were tasked to discuss the most contentious provisions of the Cybercrime. I was tasked to discuss libel, which was in fact the most controversial provision because almost all of the petitioners questioned the constitutionality of 4C4 libel. But what turned out was a difference in perception amongst the petitioners on what exactly we were questioning. Now, the language of 4C4 is clear. It says that the crime of libel penalized under Article 355 becomes a content-based offense when it is published through electronic means. No? So the effect is that there is another form of publication recognized by the law, and that is electronic communication. Prior to that, we have always defended individuals accused of libel on the internet on the ground that there is no law yet that challenge or that could become the legal basis for criminalizing internet libel. We invoke this as a defense in the complaint case filed by Willie Revillame against 2 bloggers concerning the child who was made to dance in a lunchtime program. We invoke this as a defense even as against Congressman Pacquiao's libel complaint against a Sarangani-based reporter. And in both instances, we prevail because of a Department of Justice opinion, which says that until there is a law recognizing electronic publication as a publication falling within the elements of libel, then there should not be any criminal prosecution for libel. So when we were preparing actually for this challenge, I was of the impression that what we were questioning in fact was libel in the revised penal code. Because 4C4 did not penalize libel for the first time. Libel has been criminal all along since January 1, 1930, when the revised penal code took effect. And the only thing new added by the law is if it is done electronically, there is now a legal basis for the state to prosecute that libel. I was mistaken because on the very first time that the petitioners met, I was soon to realize that at least 2 petitioners did not agree that the challenge included a constitutional challenge on the revised penal code provisions of libel, which struck me because in the first place, the language of 4C4 did not define an independent crime of libel. It was in relation specifically to Article 355 of the revised penal code. So my answer to their queries was, you can't question 4C4 without questioning 355 because that's what's provided in the cyber prevention law. But apparently, the individuals who were vehemently against this position, and one of them is from a firm that has been filing libel cases, maintain that their objective is to declare 4C4 unconstitutional even if 355 will remain. And according to them, there is a possibility, in fact, to succeed in questioning 4C4 without complicating it with the issue of 355. At the time that this was initially raised, I thought it was a good faith argument, until I recalled that they were filing hundreds, not hundreds, but they were in fact filing many, many libel cases. Now, that instantly worried me, because at the end of that meeting, there was even an express threat that they will take the podium and disavow my position that we were questioning libel under the revised penal code. Now, I have to say that this was not just one lawyer, there were 2 lawyers. But in fairness, everyone else felt that there was a need to in fact question the revised penal code provisions on libel. This had the effect on the order of who was going to speak. Because I worried that the person who manifested that they were not questioning libel under the revised penal code will in fact be true to his word and disavow my challenge on the revised penal code provision on libel. Why am I saying this in a forum such as this? Because apparently there are many in our society today who would like to distinguish between internet libel and libel per se. I could not believe my ears actually when I heard this person say that the possibility exists, because to me, the reason why you challenge the constitutionality of libel is because it is contrary to freedom of expression. We had libel when libel was considered as an affront on the good order of society, because the saying of something defamatory may lead in fact to duels during ancient times. And that is why there was a penalty imposed on libel to avoid duels. The Spanish Civil Code and the English original statutes on libel, therefore, were classified as crimes against good order of society. Unfortunately, despite the development and the recognition of the importance of free speech, not only did we fail to do away with criminal libel in the 1930s, noting that freedom of expression already existed in the United States at that time, and as I said, in addition, this new law now makes it equally applicable to electronic communication and provides for double the penalty as provided in the revised penal code, and even the possibility of double conviction under the revised penal code and under the cyber law provision. Now, fortunately, the parties represented were not true to their promise to disavow our challenge on libel. There was nothing said, in fact, about whether or not we were challenging only 4C4 or the revised penal code provisions on libel itself. And because I had amended previously the petition to make it very clear that we were questioning the constitutionality of 355 itself, I thought that the court heard my oral arguments in the context not just of questioning 4C4, but questioning criminal libel itself in the revised penal code. Now, we filed the second amended petition to make it very clear that not only are we questioning the provision that provided for a criminal penalty for libel, but we were questioning all the provisions of libel, including the presumption on malice and the limited scope of qualified privilege. Now that the case is submitted for resolution, it worries me, in fact, that in the same way that there was initially a division amongst the petitioners on what we were questioning, the justices might also have the same division. Now, perhaps some of the statements said by some of the justices will allay these fears. Justice Carpio was very firm in his view that the criminal provisions on libel have no leg to stand on when we recognize freedom of expression and when we, in fact, recognize the right of the public to information on matters which pertain to the public interest. But you can never tell how the decision could come out on the basis of what the justices asked during oral argumentation. I mean, this is my 10th opportunity to argue before the court. Marites has been in many of them. After the oral arguments in many of these cases, I always felt that we prevailed, but the decision was not always to our favor. And one of the most unfortunate losses that we've had, in fact, was on the PCOS technology. All the issues that we submitted to the court, which the court said were already addressed, are the same issues hounding the PCOS machines. Meaning that these issues could have been addressed by the court when it was first raised, and they did not do so, and hence we're now being hounded by the ghosts of the past. So, in an academic forum, my concern is to find out exactly what the sentiment of the people in general is. Are they just objecting to cyber libel because it covers the young people, in the sense that the law now makes internet libel without a doubt criminal? Or are they questioning it precisely because it is contrary to freedom of expression? Because if you approach it from that point of view, then there should be no distinction between libel in printed form in a newspaper or in a radio broadcast and in the internet. I guess these are my thoughts for the time being, to give the others a chance to react.
Anyone who wants, you can also ask questions, of course, from Harry, because I myself have a number of questions. But if you have comments, you're also welcome. And if if you have ideas on how to proceed from where we are now, because listening to Harry, there is really a cause for concern. I did not really pick that up in the reports on the oral arguments. But maybe just anyone who wants to speak, just say your name because this is being recorded, and then proceed to speak. Joe Torres.
The Philippine Center for Journalism is against libel, whether it's online or as stated in the Vice President Code, and we've been part of campaigns to remove libel in our laws because it's against freedom of expression, threatens our freedom, media freedom, and not only media freedom, but freedom of people to express themselves and express freedom at the same time. But we also have this standard. There is a need for a cybercrime law because of crimes that are being committed on cyberspace, and we're just wondering whether in this present formulation of the cybercrime law are journalists or content providers being protected. For example, one of the worries of photojournalists and multimedia practitioners who belong to our organization is the intellectual property right aspect of it. Is it highlighted in the law or IPR or our righs to our content? Because the worries of photojournalists and multimedia providers these days is their contents are being taken without their permission or being used even by mainstream media organizations without being paid, or the photographers not being paid and all that. If a law such as something that will protect providers, content providers, will be passed, or is it part of is IPR part of the cybercrime, whatever cybercrime law or proposed amendments to the law that we Yes.
Well, I'm also with the UP Law Center, and we have a mandate to assist Congress in the drafting of bills. And I was made to understand, in fact, that the House version of the bill did not have the controversial provisions of the current cybercrime law. But in the House version of the bill, there was a provision of enforcing intellectual property rights, and that is what there is a crime, in fact, the crime of basically the infringement of IPR, that is provided in the law itself, because right now we only have infringement, and they want to make it clear that infringement on through the use of the internet is equally punished and should be punished more severely than infringement in the revised penal code. That was one of the concerns of the BPOs when they had before this law. The other being cyber squatting, and of course, although there's already a law on hacking, they wanted further definition of the law on hacking. So those were the three concerns of the BPO in this case. Unfortunately, what came out of the final version of the bill was a Senate version with many of, in fact, all of the controversial provisions inserted. One of your questions is whether or not the bill, the law can stand constitutional scrutiny as far as the other provisions are concerned. Normally, when there's a settlement clause, then those not declared as being unconstitutional can stand. This law, though, has a major problem. It's Section 12 and Section 20. The Section 12 is real-time monitoring. Section 20 is the takeout clause. The problem is, these two were also became very controversial in the oral arguments for being unconstitutional. Not only are they equally covered by the prohibition on overbreadth, because they apply even to constitutionally protected speech, they were also challenged on the basis of void for vagueness and for violating the separation of powers, because it is the executive that was mandated to perform acts which also are inherently judicial. Again, Justice Carpio was very clear on his questions, that especially on 12, because 20 was considered to be a constitutional by the Solicitor General. There had to be arguments nonetheless because you can't agree on an issue of constitutionality. So that was really but more in the nature of pro forma argument. It was Section 12 that was more contentious in the sense that the SOGEN did not concede its constitutionality, but did say that it would have been preferred if law enforcement agents were required to go to courts for a valid warrant. But the concern with Section 12 on real-time monitoring is it's really an invasion of privacy with no guarantees. That the right of the privacy of the people will be protected because number one, the law only specifies that can be done unilaterally on the basis of good grounds, and there's no indication of what the definition is. I can't remember if it's good grounds or sound grounds. Can someone look at that law? But that's the bone of contention there, what it means. Number two, who will authorize it, given the constitutional provision that a search can only be conducted by Sumatawara, and the language of the Constitution is that it is being issued by a judge. Okay? And so my feeling is, considering that these are cyber crimes, which will have to be monitored, and the way of implementing the law is Section 12, how do you implement it if Section 12 is not done as being constitutional? So you will have basically a statement of what is defined by law as criminal, without a means of law enforcement to actually gather evidence indicating even that there's probable cause of violating the law for purposes of either issuance of a search warrant or for purposes of going to court, for purposes of finding information on the basis of this probable cause. So my thought right now, and this is an academic discussion, is that it's very difficult for the rest of the provisions of the law to stand on Section 12. Unless they're happy to come up with a declaration of criminality without identifying the means by which they will enforce it. Now also, when you talk of a facial challenge, which is what we did, and in that initial meeting, the same people who objected to the attack on libel questioned the applicability of facial doctrine challenges, saying that they're only for infringement of the right to freedom of expression, and what we have here is a criminal statute. And I was saying precisely in the US, all the criminal libel statutes were struck down because while they are criminal statutes, they were precisely infringing on freedom of expression. But the point is, as far as indications amongst the justices are concerned, it was the Chief Justice who asked in one of her last questions, guide us on how we could possibly save some provisions of the law from the fact that there is, in fact, Section 12. And there was no clear answer other than the Solicitor General saying that it's very clear that the intent of Congress as a matter of separation of powers is to authorize Section 12. So I don't know if they will have a basis for simply making things criminal without the means of enforcing it.
Is there any follow-up or a separate issue you want to discuss? Yes, please.
Yeah. First of all,
for recording of the same.
Yeah, my name is Benny from the National Trust Fund. Basically, for those people who doesn't know, sinuportahan na namin pong cybercrime muna lumabas ito. Came up with a statement loading the passage of this law, but basically nung scrutinize namin mabuti, yung likelihood medyo na-shock kami. Then immediately niretract namin. No? And hindi po tayo nahiya, nagkamali tayo, tao lang. But niretract namin ito. Basically, ang sinusuportahan po namin dito is not the libel. No? Hindi yun. Ang sinusuportahan po namin dito, dahil dito tayo, stakeholders tayo, para at least alam nyo. Yung tinatawag po sa against child pornography. And of course, being personally, biktima ako ng cyberbullying, tingin ko ito na yung nagkaroon ako ng pag-asa sa buhay, no? Personal experience na meron akong tatakbuhan, meron nang magtatanggol sa akin dahil every morning, pag-gising ko, people call me, Benny, someone is saying bad words against you, o ganito, ganyan, at ako, bayahan mo lang. But sad to say, may mga anak tayo, may pamilya tayo, pati yung mga classmates nila, sinasabi sa mga anak namin. So, masakit yun. So now, basically kaya ako nakikwento ito, yung batas, ano ba yung pinaglalaban natin sa Supreme Court? Pinaglalaban natin na totally basura siya? I don't think so. Merong iba sa atin, sang-ayon doon sa ibang provision, meron namang hindi sang-ayon. Ngayon, kanina kong umaga, nung kasama ko si Atty. Mike Melia, which is the Legal Counsel of the National Press Club, and isa rin sa mga petitioner, tinanong ko siya, is there a way na matanggal yung mga unconstitutional na provisions at maipasa yung mga ano? Sa amin sa National Press Club, after our conversation, it's either matanggal yung title, yung pinaglalaban natin na matanggal, yung attack on our privacy, matanggal yung mga yon, or kung hindi tatanggalin, jump the whole law. Yun ang stand namin sa National Press Club. Okay. But basically, this law, napakaganda sana, dahil sinasabi niya hindi ko lang yung isang provision na sinasabi niya na everything which is in the revised penal code applies to this law. Why do you need to specifically indicate libel? Which is nasa revised penal code na, di ba, nasa constitution na natin lahat. Kompleto niyan eh. So, yun yung sinasabi rin nung dating sinong lawyer to, kalimutan ko Chinese nung sa computer. No. Hindi sa DOJ. Si Ivan. Yeah. Si Atty. Ivan. Ang sinasabi niya, ayos na yan eh. May libel na yan eh. You don't need to specify. Silent lang yung libel. Kasi nasa penal code, silent lang. Bakit pa in-specify? Lumabas tuloy na hindi mo pwedeng i-apply na ngayon dahil nasilip. Well, in fact, kahit na hindi nilagay yung libel, applied yun doon sa cybercrime law. Yun yung sinabi na Ivan. So, tatayo pa ba yung batas without that libel? Diba? Tatayo pa ba? Ano yung magiging ngipin ng batas? Siguro yung maganda pag-usapan natin. Ano yung pinakangipin ng batas? Let's say ako, being a victim of cyberbullying. No? I'm talking right now not as the president of the National Press Club na. At up to this point, I'm talking as a human being, as a Filipino citizen, na biktima ng cyberbullying. Ano ba? Saan pa ako tatakbo? Siguro yung pag-usapan din natin, and let's think about the welfare of those victims of cyberbullying. Diba? Ano pa? Lahat ibinitang sa akin. Actually, ang buhay ko, ngayon eh? Ang buhay ko nasa bingit ng alanganin ngayon because of this ampatuan. Kasama ko yan, si Atty. Roque, na kami ngayon ang may threat kami because of these ampatuan cases, di ba? Pero, ang sabi ro sa cyberspace eh, tumanggap ako ng pera. At nakalagay doon, ang laki ng tinanggap ko. Papatayin na ako, sinisira pa ako. So, yung ganoon pa, paano naman ako? Diba? Saan naman tayo tatakbo? So, siguro, pag-usapan din natin yun.
So, there's a question here. So, is this in relation to the question raised by... Okay, please.
Julian Sonido, blogger. Basically, I'd like to siguro first narrate how the cybercrime law went, how social media reacted to cybercrime law. Kasi this was passed during the Corona hearing. A number of bloggers wrote about it. It didn't get enough traction. When it was signed by the President, several interesting things happened. Sa cyberspace, you have a set of people who would call more or less identified with the government or they more or less support the government by their actions. A number of them became very mad. These are the same people who during the election support the Pinoy. And a number of them, through thick and thin, stuck with the president. When this was signed into law, and it became more or less, I would say, not yet viral, but approaching viral, a number of these people, in their statuses, in the discussion online, in Facebook, were really expressing their anger how could this happen, that they didn't expect the president to sign this. Then next wave came in with more common users of Facebook, Twitter, and other forums. One was the like option in Facebook and retwittering and in connection with libel. The common question then was, if I like something on Facebook, am I liable for libel? If I retweeted this, and you have to remember this was a time when Senator Soto was being attacked on Facebook. His picture was being, even videos were being made, and people would share this, like this. So the question was, if I, an ordinary person connected to the net, would like this, or even share it, am I liable? So it struck a chord. People were saying, oh no, it's the next martial law, it's next. And it became it was the pivotal point. The thing Attorney Roque said about the data privacy and came in a little bit later when it was explained that your privacy can be tracked. The first was libel, and then the second was the higher penalty. When it was explained to them that they could actually go to jail, pay a higher penalty fee, the interest went viral. As in, very viral, as in people were very interested in it. To the fact that it crossed over mainstream media. They had features and everything. Afterwards, the question came up, how about victims of cyberbullying? In fact, I think Rappler had a forum where you had Christopher Lau. And one of the things he said was he was a victim of cyberbullying, and how will the victims of cyberbullying be protected now? Because as Benny said, it was viewed as the one way of protecting themselves against being maligned or being cyberbullied. This was the perception. So on the net, you get these two camps fighting. I mean, the traffic, no problem. I mean, there's no argument against that. It's the part that one is how can we protect ourselves against cyberbullying? And people come up with things like that. And in fact, in the Supreme Court hearings, you see that mentioned often. In third, I noticed, but because we were talking to a lot of people, in terms of social media, a lot of people don't actually read the terms of service or the terms of use of each channel. For example, Twitter, Facebook, and oftentimes, person I'm surprised, you can actually monitor what people say about you in Facebook. In fact, approve it or disapprove it. The most common complaint is if they get your picture. They do something awful with your picture. They put it on Facebook. And then they tag you. Now, that's the most common, one more common problem. So, the solution to that is actually in your customization of your Facebook profile. You can actually approve whatever is tagged to you. That's in Facebook, that's in terms of service. So, as I saw it, there was a concern over libel. There's also sometimes a lack of understanding in using these different channels. And oftentimes, when you use those channels, the default setting is for public. So everything you say is public, everything you post is public. Whereas you can actually customize it to the point that you can protect yourself. And there are means for that. And now, as to the reaction against the crime itself when it was suspended, an interesting thing happened when it was suspended. There were cases of libel still being filed. There was one case of, I'm not quite sure of the case, but it was against some mineral rights. They filed a case against her, and Vizcaya. And then we heard of a blogger who was actually subpoenaed to court because of a comment in his blog about a corporation. Now, he was subpoenaed to court. The Morris contacted us through a network, and we advised him on what to do. He contacted a lawyer. And the fact is, this cybercrime was suspended, but still liable itself is not. So you're still liable for that. I mean, not really liable, but the threat is there that you can actually be sued for that. Siguro lastly, with social media kasi, it's always, there's always a cycle. Now, for the cybercrime thing, it ran a very fair cycle, siguro 2 or 3 weeks. Then, na-suspension. When na-suspension, the interest sort of died down. When it died down, hindi na as big as before. Of course, you're looking at certain stages. Whenever there's a Supreme Court hearing, people will take a look at it, will get maybe interest ulit. But it actually depends on what comes out of those hearings na lumalabas. And so far, the most violent reaction talaga is when people learn that just by liking a post, you can get for libel. That's what, kasi there's the, in terms of, I think in terms of using social media here, one has to understand the psychology of things. It's when it hurts you personally. That, and what's most personal for most people online is most common. You like something, you share something. And no, that's one thing that comes out from this is that that, and also the internet is a very diverse group. You will have people talking about cybercrime, but you have people also against cyberbullying, against libel, and even in the petitions, you have 15 different petitions, each one with a different take on it. I would take us because I'm with the CD petition, so it was to take out certain provisions from that. Then you had another lobby group come in with a more, I think, more bigger position. I don't know, of course, the ins and outs of how they did it or why, but there you go. But again, with social media, it's sometimes the most simplest, the most factual thing that gets transmitted quickly and very fast.
So among those present today, you have 2 petitioners. Anong group kayo? What I mean, you filed your own petition and you joined the CD. Kasi question, maybe just to focus the discussion a bit. What is are all the petitioners common against libel?
No.
So,
since day one.
The 15 petitioners,
okay.
Not all are united to take out the libel provision.
To my surprise. To my surprise. What happened was I even hosted a meeting in UP. After we had a meeting with Justice Abad, where we selected the speakers, I hosted a meeting in UP. And that's what, for the first time, people manifested that some of them were not against the criminal provisions of libel in the revised penal code. Now, this explains why in my speech, in my presentation, I devoted 4 slides to illustrate basically the different features of, number 1, Twitter, the retweeting capacity, number 2, on Facebook, the resharing. That was a compromise in an effort to appease those objecting to the challenge on 355. I thought, okay, just don't disavow it. I will discuss also concept of overbreadth as applied to the internet as a technology. Because that was a context in which they said they would disavow whatever statement that I said. Because initially, when we actually rehearsed our presentations, I was focused on New York Times versus Sullivan. Because New York Times versus Sullivan, the actual malice test became the rational incidentally why at least 15 courts in the United States struck down libel legislation precisely because of the principle of overbreadth. It covers false statements about conduct of public officials or public figures, no? Insofar as that it affects the public interest. No? So that was really a compromise that I had to show the court the peculiar nature of the internet, no, through actual slides in an effort to appease them, not at least to disavow. But the lines remain because when we were talking about consolidated memorandum, that prevented us from getting a consolidated memorandum, which I am sad about because our memorandum will not have the same impact as the memorandum of the state because it's only one memorandum of the state and there's going to be at least 3 memorandum for the petitioners, if not actually more. But then again, this is I hope really an academic forum. I would never say this in any forum outside, but I'm saying this because this is convened by my favorite senator, Dr. Bray, the best senator we never had. But it shows that there's really so much debate out there. Now, I could not understand actually, well, it took me a while to understand the motivations of one of them. I could not understand also the motivation of another until I found out that he has relations who sued individuals for utterances made on the internet. So now it makes sense. No? They don't want to decriminalize libel because they have been filing cases for libel.
So just to follow up on an earlier point, what are the common, what do the 15 petitions share in common? At least protection of cyber, maybe the other concerns shared earlier.
But the common is 4C4.
4C4.
Because at least 2 of them distinguish between internet libel.
Did not follow it closely. What is 4C4?
4C4 is the provision that says that libel under 355, when published in the internet, is also criminal. And their worry is just, at least those who don't want to challenge 355. I think, Mike, were you there in that meeting in the moot court room, the first meeting?
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, in the moot court room of UP. No, you were not. No. Yeah, no one else is there, unfortunately. No? But, so the common provision is 4C4. The fact that it still could be void on the basis of overbreadth because you're not sure if retweeting, reposting can be sufficient legal basis to charge individuals for libel. So that's common, I think, without having to deal with the actual malice standard of New York Times versus Sullivan. And then, of course, everyone is against the takedown provision. Everyone is against Article 12. Everyone is against the higher penalty, which makes, in fact, sentences for conviction, even for cyber libel, as involving mandatory imprisonment, because the basis for parole is the penalty. It should not exceed six months, and since the penalty of libel could now be longer than 6 months, there's definitely imprisonment now. And everyone is also against the double jeopardy, the fact that even if they made, for instance, in libel, the fact of publication in the internet only as a qualifying circumstance, it still could be the basis for separate prosecution, which means that it is not in fact a qualifying circumstance. I think everyone is also united on the cyber sex provision because it's also going to equally challenge the basis of overbreadth and void for vagueness, especially not only because they didn't even use obscenity or even pornographic language. No? They said it was lascivious, which defies the definition legally. No? And what is being penalized is for when it's published on the internet for favor or consideration. And that is why people laughed when there was a question on my sex life, whether or not there was such a favor. I didn't answer it because I always thought I was being used by my wife. And that was a favor, so I didn't say it anymore because I thought I was crossing the line. So I think those 6 issues are consistent. Now, on the far end, there's only one group that challenged the pornography provision, which is FIFA. Okay, FIFA challenged that.
which I thought was brave because judging from the US case law on Reno versus ACLU, what was challenged also is not the fact that pornography was being banned, but the fact that pornography was sought not to be accessed by young people. And the basis for the US Supreme Court striking it out is being unconstitutional against it affects the rights of adults who have the right to access these materials from accessing this material. So there was feedback from the far end that questioned the anti-pornography, which was defined in relation to an existing law on pornography, which was very long, which is why I personally thought we couldn't question it, because the definition was sufficiently long to be very narrowly tailored, and therefore, in my mind, it probably could stand constitutional scrutiny. The FIPA questioned every provision, all the crimes. I'm sorry that you did not invite someone from FIPA, no, but they were the ones who questioned everything.
But you say they're so far in.
Well, you know, in effect, with Section 12, the whole law will collapse anyway. So I think that was the intention of FIPA, just to question every single provision, because they know that with 12 and 20, they can strike down the entire law and not just specific provisions.
So our objective is to strike down the entire law.
Well, personally, ito naman yung difference ng mga petitions, no? I did not question cyber squatting, I did not question identity theft, I did not question even the pornography decision, no? But having not questioned them is a different issue from whether or not, without Section 12, you could have a viable law. And I think the Chief Justice asked the question, how do we save it, given that you drafted Section 12 the way it is? No? So, but anyway, since we subjected it to facial challenge, the reason why there is facial challenge is because it could cover protected rights, it is void, and therefore void, violated in due process. The remedy really is for Congress to enact a new law. It's not for Congress to interpret it in a way that will survive constitutional scrutiny, because in one US case that struck down the Louisiana criminal level statute, the court said that would be the exercise of judicial legislation. So really, if we succeed, they have to draft a new law. And let's hope that it's the House version that they will draft this time.
I think there's someone who joined Giselle.
Of the National Press Club of the Philippines. I am also one of the lawyers who filed a petition challenging the constitutional limits of cybercrime law, representing the National Press Club. We join the point of view of Attorney Roque. We do not care about cybercrime, cyber pornography, cyber sex, data interference, and hacking, because we believe that there are good laws, except the cyber libel law. In our point of view, it's very dangerous because, as discussed, articulated by Attorney Roque during the oral argument, it's overbroad. We do not know that there was no specific definition on how cyber libel or online libel is committed, who will be liable, how they will be liable, how it will be committed. Is mere liking, tagging, or whatever. That will they become liable also, because we have to bear to note that cyberspace is a very intricate maze. It creates an intricate maze of interaction, unlike the ordinary publication, where basically there is no interaction. The publication is, or the expression of ideas or opinions goes one way. The readers, the listeners of a broadcast cannot comment, unlike in online publication where it creates immediate interaction among the participants. In Remate or other publications, newspaper publication, they already have the online version, where in the lower portion there is a reply, section, there's also the chat portion or option in online publication. In other words, we also discussed that there can be no online libel on the ground that there is an immediate availability of right to reply. If one feels that a certain publication is inflammatory, they can easily go in the reply option and write their comments or counter-criticize also. In other words, in online publication, there is no monopoly of thought. There is no monopoly of ideas. So that's only one of the points that we raise to strike down a cyber libel. And well, we did not specifically challenge the constitutionality of revised penal code libel, but in our discussion, we mentioned that all over the world, libel is already considered as civil in nature. They have already decriminalized libel. So in a way, while we did not specifically question it, we support also the challenge towards the unconstitutionality or declaration of unconstitutionality of additional libel.
Yes, Harry.
I promise to be quiet after this.
No,
but you know, I had a problem in dealing with how many countries of the world have actually decriminalized. Because I even consulted international organizations of this, the Media Legal Defense in London and Article 19. And they both came back to me saying, unfortunately, I wanted to be able to say on oral arguments precisely what Mike had said, the majority of the world have decriminalized libel. It's apparently not true. That's why I didn't say it in open court. Article 19 even has a map of the world on how many jurisdictions still have criminal libel, and because it should still a majority.
You mean a majority of countries still?
A majority of countries. Now, my next question was, can I at least say that in Europe it's completely decriminalized? And the response is you can't, because France still has criminal libel. Although it's not actually, you know, a living law, because no one has actually resorted to it. And then my last question was, can I at least say that in the United States, all the states have decriminalized? And said no. In fact, there's one case recently involving a blogger where he was convicted by a majority of a state law, no, under state law of libel. Although there's only 17 states in the United States that still have criminal libel law, which is a lot compared to 52 states, but it still isn't, you know, decriminalized in the United States itself. No? So that's why I couldn't say it was Supreme Court, because it was not factually correct. But we can, however, distinguish, because it seems to me that in almost all jurisdictions that have applied and adopted the actual malice standard under the New York Times versus Sullivan case, they have decriminalized libel, because that's precisely the reason why it was declared to be to be unconstitutional on the basis of overbreadth. There's some protected speech which could be punished. This being false statements without knowledge that they were in fact said, that they were in fact false or in evidence regarding its falsity against a public figure or a public officer. No? And the problem is, in some of the jurisdictions that have opted not to decriminalize, the reason is they have a different concept of malice, which includes a broader definition, including hatred, ill will, and malevolent intent, no? Which, according to the adherents of New York Times, should also be protected because they contribute to the free debate of ideas and freedom of ideas. But that's where the division is: how to treat hatred, ill will, and malevolent intent.
Maybe as the day promised to introduce themselves, the lady beside the blog for June. Please pass the mic, Harry.
My name is Regina Lai Grosero from the Broad Media Foundation.
I think to Ariel, please introduce yourself.
Morning, Ariel Sabelina from the Philippine Press Institute. The PBI, along with the NUJP, the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, totally reject the bill or law in its entirety. That's why the Attorney Roque was tasked to be one of those who did the oral arguments at the Supreme Court.
Hi, I'm Ali Melendez. I'm a blogger and I'm from the PBI also.
You're going to say something, or anyone has